Right now, the United States is caught in the middle of a winter crisis that refuses to let go. This isn't a single storm that came and went. This is a sequence, layer upon layer of extreme weather, hitting the country before people even had time to recover from the last blow. From Texas all the way to the Carolinas and up through the mid-Atlantic into New York, the damage is already staggering. At least 147 people have lost their lives. Insured losses are approaching $7 billion and still climbing. Thousands of flights have been canceled, stranding travelers and breaking supply chains. Entire regions have been locked in ice, snow, and bitter cold for days on end. But here's the part that matters most. This is not over. Even as communities dig out, another wave of Arctic cold and snow is already forming. Forecasters warn that late January and early February are setting up for yet another round of winter weather, targeting many of the same areas that are already exhausted and vulnerable. To understand how this escalated so fast, we have to look at how this winter unfolded. In late January, the United States was hit by a rare back-to-back assault. The first system, Winter Storm Fern, pushed eastward across the country. It began in the southwest, dumping snow and ice across New Mexico and Texas, states that are not built for prolonged winter weather. From there, Fern spread through the Midwest and into the Northeast, leaving slick roads, frozen infrastructure, and millions under winter alerts. Before Fern had even fully cleared, a second and far more aggressive system took shape over the Atlantic. This was a bomb cyclone, what meteorologists call a storm that rapidly intensifies as warm ocean air collides with cold Arctic air. This storm, often referred to as Winter Storm Gianna, slammed directly into the Carolinas and parts of the Southeast. At the same time, an unusually deep surge of Arctic air plunged southward. Temperatures dropped well below freezing in places that rarely see sustained cold. What made this event especially dangerous wasn't just how cold it got, it was how long the cold stayed. For days, sometimes more than a week, temperatures never climbed above freezing. Roads never fully thawed. Pipes stayed frozen. Power demand soared. And once systems began to fail, they stayed broken. Together, Fern and Gianna turned more than 30 states into one extended winter disaster zone. And the atmosphere still hasn't calmed down. Over the past 24 hours alone, a weaker storm system known as an Alberta Clipper slid south from Canada. While not as intense, it still laid down fresh snow, 1 to 2 inches across parts of Indiana, Ohio, West Virginia, and into the mid-Atlantic. That may not sound dramatic, but when roads are already icy and temperatures remain below freezing, even a small amount of snow can be enough to cause widespread accidents and delays. Around Washington, D.C. and parts of New Jersey, roads turned slick once again. The National Weather Service kept winter weather advisories in place across large portions of the Southeast, stretching as far south as Georgia and northern Florida. Freeze warnings remained active in areas where agriculture and water systems are especially sensitive. And looming just ahead is another stronger system expected to develop later in the week, with models pointing toward the Great Lakes and the heavily traveled I-95 corridor. This isn't just bad luck. This is a pattern, and it's taking a growing toll on the country. As the storms piled up, the economic damage became impossible to ignore. Private insurance firms, using catastrophe models developed by industry analysts, now estimate that insured losses from this winter sequence have reached approximately $6.7 billion across more than 30 states. That number does not include uninsured damage, lost wages, business closures, or long-term infrastructure repair. When placed in context, Fern and Gianna are already among the costliest winter storms in recent U.S. history. They are being compared to the 2021 Texas winter disaster, when insured losses alone reached between $15 and $20 billion. But insurance losses are only one piece of the story. Behind the scenes, the nation's power grid has been operating under intense strain. In the eastern United States, the PJM interconnection, one of the largest grid operators in the world, reported that generating units either offline or running at reduced output climbed above 25 gigawatts. That number is dangerously close to the peak outages seen during January's earlier deep freeze. The reasons are complex, but the core issue is simple. Prolonged Arctic cold disrupts fuel supplies. Coal piles freeze. Natural gas pipelines struggle to deliver steady pressure. Equipment that isn't designed for sustained sub-freezing temperatures begins to fail. And as demand demand for heating skyrockets, the margin for error disappears. Even as spot natural gas and electricity prices in parts of the Northeast began to ease slightly, the system remained fragile. Grid operators warned that extended cold could still trigger rolling outages if another major storm hits before repairs and fuel deliveries are fully restored. Transportation has also taken a major hit. More than 2,400 flights were canceled, with many more delayed. Airports in the Midwest and Southeast faced repeated shutdowns as snow, ice, and freezing rain cycled through. Rail traffic slowed. River shipping in some regions was disrupted by ice and low visibility. For businesses, this meant delayed inventory, missed deadlines, and lost revenue. For workers, it meant missed paychecks and difficult choices, especially in areas where power outages stretched on for days. And that brings us to the human side of this disaster. Beyond the statistics and dollar figures are millions of people trying to get through each day in dangerous conditions. From the Carolinas down into Florida, the human impact has grown more severe with each passing day. Along the outer banks of North Carolina, at least 4 beachfront homes near Buxton have already collapsed into the ocean. Powerful waves, coastal erosion, and relentless wind combined with the storm surge to tear away land that once supported entire neighborhoods. Inland, families are facing a second week of bitter cold and long power outages. In Nashville, more than 20,000 customers remained without electricity well after the storms passed. Schools closed. Businesses shut down. City leaders ordered reviews of utility response times as residents demanded answers about why outages lasted so long. In Florida, the cold arrived in a different but equally damaging way. Fern growers preparing for Valentine's Day watched helplessly as sensitive crops froze in the fields. Strawberry farms faced frost damage. Growers rushed to protect plants, knowing that a single night of hard freeze could wipe out months of work. Meteorologists at NOAA and scientists at NASA described this event as Arctic air being pushed unusually far south and then locked in place. Instead of moving quickly eastward, the cold stalled, creating conditions that many southern communities simply aren't built to handle. Satellite imagery from NASA captured the scale of the snowfall. A bright white band stretched from West Virginia through Virginia and deep into North and South Carolina. Local climate experts in North Carolina described it as a once-in-a-lifetime winter storm. Some areas of the central coastal plain recorded snow totals that hadn't been seen in decades. New Bern measured around 12.5 inches. Newport saw close to 15 inches. Parts of Pender County were buried under nearly 20 inches of snow, amounts not recorded there since 1989. Even Florida felt the edge of this Arctic blast. Rare flurries appeared near Tampa. Frost threatened crops across central Florida. Viral images spread online showing alligators floating under thin ice and iguanas stunned by the cold, falling from trees. All of this came on top of Winter Storm Fern, which had already placed more than 300 million people under winter weather alerts and left over half of the continental United States snow-covered. Just days later, bomb Cyclone Gianna followed, slamming the Carolinas with near-blizzard conditions and knocking out power to more than 190,000 customers. For many families, this winter has felt endless. When you step back and look at the full picture, this sequence of storms is more than a freak weather event. It exposes how vulnerable large parts of the United States still are to cold, ice, and heavy snow. Many homes in the South were never designed for repeated deep freezes. Pipes are often exposed. Insulation is minimal. Water systems lack redundancy. When temperatures stayed below freezing for days, pipes burst, ceilings collapsed, and homes became unlivable. Power grids that rely heavily on natural gas and aging coal plants struggled when fuel supplies were constrained. Backup systems failed. Repairs took longer than expected. Communication gaps left residents uncertain about when help would arrive. Scientists from NOAA, NASA, and the World Meteorological Organization have repeatedly warned that a warming climate does not eliminate extreme cold. In fact, it can make weather patterns more volatile, producing sharper swings, stronger storms, and unusual combinations of cold, moisture, and wind. This is the important part. Without stronger planning, updated building codes, winterized infrastructure, and clear public public guidance. The next Fern, or Gianna, could once again turn a weather event into a national emergency. For millions of people, these storms will be remembered not just for record snow and ice, but for the moment daily life stopped, when heat, power, and water disappeared all at once. Preparation matters, infrastructure matters, communication matters, and the decisions made now will determine whether the next major winter storm is manageable.